Hey, what's up YouTube? It's iAzzzaaaaxD here, and yes, I am back after many months. Basically, I just couldn't really find the time to keep doing stuff, but finally, after this long time of being away on hiatus, I've come back in style with my very own DDD deck profile for you guys. Basically, I've been playing this deck for, since the new structure deck came out. And I've played in 3 local tournaments, and with this deck build right here, I've come first in 2 and then third in the last one, and that's purely because I lost to second place whilst trying out the new side deck. But yeah, literally, without any further ado, I will get cracking for you guys. So yeah, we'll start with the main deck. Alright, so first off, we have 3 copies of DD Swirl Slime. This card lets you fuse any DD monster, any triple D monster, just by using materials in your hand. And then you can also banish it from a graveyard to special any DD or DDD monster from your hand as well. So it starts plays and it's, a play extender, so it's really good. You've got to run that guy at 3. Next we have 3 copies of DD Necro Slime. This is effectively your Miracle Fusion for the deck. You can pitch it with other cards like DD Copernicus or Foolish Burial, just so it's in the graveyard. And yeah, again, it's one of those extended plays, and so really you've got to kind of max out on it. Next we have 3 copies of DD Lamia. This is by far my favourite card in this deck, just purely because how broken it can be. You have access to new synchros now, and being a level 1 tuner, it works really well. Also, with all the effects of your DD extra deck monsters, you can just keep recycling it from the graveyard to extend your plays. And of course, it's searchable with the Dark Contract card. And this was one of the cards that was released in the new structure deck. Okay, so pendulum based cards. We have 3 copies of DDD Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. You've got to really max out on this guy because he has a pendulum scale ability and an actual monster ability, both of which are pretty broken, especially when you've got stuff like Swirl Slime in the graveyard to special it from your hand and then special any triple D monster from your graveyard. So yeah, it is pretty broken. Definitely have to max out on that guy. Next we have 3 copies of DD Savant Thomas. I play 3, I've seen people play 2. I used to play 2, but I feel as though it's kind of needed just so you can do those rank 8 plays. And of course it's another DD to pitch with your Swirl Slime if you want to fusion summon, so it's okay. Next I have 1 copy of DDD Doom King Armageddon. This is just a really cool card in general, and the fact that it can't be destroyed by spell or trap effects that do not target it is really overpowered. I mean, obviously, there's cards out there which do stuff, and it doesn't target, so fair enough, but I just like it. It's a nice 3k beta, and if one of your monsters is destroyed, you can target that destroyed monster, and until the end of a turn, this guy gains attack equal to that destroyed monster. So in a way, it's your own way of getting over those higher level and higher attack monsters just by sacking off a monster. Next we have 2 copies of DD Savant Copernicus. This is effectively your Armageddon Knight for the deck. And yeah, you can actually run this at 3. If you want to do that, then I'd probably recommend cutting the Armageddon. But I like Armageddon, so I've cut this guy down to 2, and it seems to work for me. Then we have 1 copy of DD Orthros. Just try and move this back into the light for you. In a way, it's kind of like an Archery and Eccentric, except you don't pop itself when it's in the scale. You just kind of pop another DD or Dark Contract card. So, it's reusable. But yeah, you run this at 1. This is your main out to floodgates like Vanities, or even Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I got hit by that at my last locals. It was a pain in the arse until I realised I could search for this. And the last DD monsters you run in the main deck is 3 copies of Savant Kepler. This guy is just one of the main combo starters. It searches for any dark contract, and more often than not you search for your gate to then search for any DD card or any DD monster and just go from there. And then lastly we have 2 Maxis, because Maxis, you need Maxis, especially in this format and the next. But yeah, that's all the monster cards. I believe 24, or probably 23. I think it's 24 though. We'll just kind of go with that. Anyway, so yes, we've got Dark Contract with the gate. You take 1,000 during every standby phase after this card's activation, for as long as it remains face up on the field. But once per turn, you can search any DD from deck to hand. So, you know, it's decent, and you have to max out on it because you maybe want to see it in your opening hand. But yeah, there we go. Next, we have 2 copies of Dark Contract with the Swamp King. I've seen people run this at 1, but personally I like to run it at 2 because I do play Desires. So, you know, if I banish 1, it's okay because there's 1 in there. And this lets you fuse from pretty much anywhere, hand, field or graveyard. But if you use materials in the graveyard, they get banished. And you still, and obviously like the gate, you take 1,000 during standby phase. Next, we've got 3 copies of Allure because aside from your Maxis, I think they are literally all dark monsters. Next, we have 2 copies of Desires. To be honest, I don't see why people don't play Desires in any decks. You know, obviously aside from the fact that it's expensive. And I see Desires get a lot of hate just purely for banishing 10. But, you know, the way you see it is, if you know you can possibly extend your combos, then banishing 10 cards that you don't have access to gain, you know, those extra 2 cards, it seems like a worthwhile investment. I mean, of course, if you then go and banish 3 copies of Lamia, you kind of screwed yourself, but, you know, it's a risk. One-offs, we have 1 Upstart Goblin. You know, you give your opponent 1,000 life points and draw a card. Then we got Raigeki for the board wipe, and this one's an ultimate rare. Then we have 1 copy of 1 for 1 because you play like 6 level 1s. You have Foolish Burial, so you can just pitch whatever you need in the graveyard to then extend your combo plays. And that is literally the spells. So we only play 4 traps. We've got Dark Contract with the Witch. I've seen people hate on this card so badly, but it is by far one of the best Dark Contracts in the game. Just the fact that you can pitch a DD or Dark Contract from your hand to the graveyard to then blow up 1 card on the field, it's just broken. So yeah, and obviously, like with every other Dark Contract, you burn for 1,000 damage during the standby phase. Next, we've got a Vanity's Emptiness, because who doesn't like shutting down your opponent's special summons? And then finally, we've got 2 Dimensional Barrier. This card is well worth the absurd amount that it costs on eBay and stuff like that. The amount of games I've won just with this card alone is unreal. So yeah, right then, so that's the main deck, and I believe that's 42 cards in total because obviously I play with 2 Desires. So in terms of extra deck, we've got 2 copies of DDD Flame King Genghis. This is a pretty broken card, to be fair. It's really easy to summon you've got your Swirl Slime, your Necro Slime, or your Swamp King contract. And if a DD is special summoned, you special summon any DD or DDD monster from your graveyard. So yeah, it's broken as fuck. And obviously when it's destroyed, you add any Dark Contract from graveyard back to hand. Next we have 1 copy of DDD Oracle King Diarch. Basically this guy's great. If I had room, I'd run him at 2 as well. And this is basically your what's the word? Basically, if you've got your contracts on the field and you know you're going to burn, having this on the field during the standby phase, and you will effectively gain that life point instead. So if you burn for 3k, you will gain the 3k. So yeah, it's really good. Next we have one copy of DDD, Dragonbane King Beowulf. This is a optional heavy storm during your standby phase, and it allows every DD monster you control to do piercing damage. And the last fusion card we run is DDD Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. It's a long ass name right there. But yeah, it's a 3/2 booty, and if it battles an opponent's monster, you can select a different monster that your opponent controls and equip it to it, and then you would gain attack equal to that equipped monster. So it's really good, and obviously 3/2 already. You know, it's kind of like an OTK kind of thing. And of course you use it to get over those unbreakable boards your opponent makes. So in terms of synchros, you actually run a few synchros to be fair. Start things off with Formula Synchron. You run 6 level 2s, 3 of which are your tuners, so bringing this guy is fairly easy. Then we got one DDD, Gus King Alexander. This is kind of like the Genghis, except it can only special summon level 4 or lower from a graveyard. But it's okay, you know, it's your play to, you know, go your Crystal Wing or your Siegfried. Next we have one copy of Odd Eyes Meteor Burst. Basically this card is just a way to sort of special from your scale if you need to. Like you could have a Ragnarok in scale. You could synchro summon this, special the Ragnarok. Bring back the Lamia to make Crystal Wing, and obviously Ragnarok will special a triple D from a graveyard. So it's just just there to extend your plays. Next we have one copy of DDD Curse King Siegfried. Basically, once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target one face-up spell or trap and just negate it. So if they drop a Raigeki or a Dark Hole, you just say no, you negate, and you know that's card wasted. And this, you know, level 8, 2800 attack. You can even use it to overlay if you wanted to, but it's probably not really advised. Next up, we've got a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. By far the best synchro, in my personal opinion, in the game at this current time. It's just so super overpowered and super expensive. Then we got one Psy-Frame Lord Omega. This card is broken, especially if you've used Desires, because you could banish any card you needed, and instead of being super bummed about it, you could just bring this guy and then return it to the graveyard to use next time. So it's really good, level 8, so you can XE summon and stuff like that. So next up we've got a personal tech card here, and that would be Kriston Phoenix. This is purely for those paleo matchups and against any deck that likes back row. Whether it's something like anti-meta or like that. You go first, you synchro the Formula, you synchro the Odd Eyes or the Alexander, and then during your opponent's main phase, after they've set all their back row and stuff, you use the effective Synchron to then synchro summon into this and banish all the spell and trap cards on the field and in the graveyard. So yeah, it's pretty good. And of course it does float into any card from your graveyard when it's destroyed, so yeah, definitely run this over the Trishula. Okay, and then finally we've got 3 Xyz cards. So we've got DDD Duo Dawn King Kali Yuga. This is a beast card, and every time I try and get this out, it always ends up, you know, being striked or somebody will dimensional barrier me. But if I can get this out, then, you know, I'm always happy. Next up, we've got a number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Spell negations, and, you know, you can redirect the attack onto him instead of one of your lower level monsters. And then finally, my tech card, in terms of Xyz. I've seen people play Utopia Beyond or Beatrice, but I personally like to run Utopia Roots, because you run your level 1s, 6 level 1s, and sometimes you might have to use Lamia to special summon it from a graveyard or your hand by pitching a DD or Dark Contract, but you don't really want to banish for Lamia. So if you make this, and then obviously when you detach for Lamia, it will go to the graveyard instead of being banished. Yeah, that's just, you know, my personal thing. You don't have to do it if you build this deck. You can run Beatrice or even another Genghis if you wanted to. But yeah, that's just my personal choice. So yes then guys, that is effectively my deck profile for DDs. I would show you the side deck, but I'm already already 15 minutes in, and to be fair, the side deck does need a tiny bit of work still. But it's just generic side deck stuff, so like Twin Twisters, Kaijus, Denko. You could chuck in strikes and anti-spells, whatever you really fancy. But yeah, if you like this video and enjoyed it, then feel free to smash that like button and leave a comment below, just telling me what you think I can do better. Obviously, I've been out of the game for a long while, and I'm just trying to get back into it very slowly. So obviously, I need to work on probably slowing my speech down and probably thinking about what I say before I try and say it. But yeah, any feedback is welcome, guys. So this is iAzzzaaaaxD signing off.